Hi, I'm Ben Winkler. This is my student-centered assessment. The question I'm going to be answering today is how did the economic, social, and political challenges of the post-Civil War era affect the American identity? Now I'm going to be going over 3 points. I'm going to talk about the strength of our country, the freedom, and the prosperity all before the post-Civil War era and after the post-Civil War era. So first thing we're going to talk about is the strength of America. Now what we focused on mostly before was building industries, building up farms, and uniting as one nation. Okay, and we prided ourselves in helping each other. So farmers will grow the crops, and we would pay them for the crops, so they would be at our benefit because we're paying them for it, and we would be at their benefit because we're getting food that we need, and they're selling their crops. Now this changes after the post-Civil War era or westward expansion, and our strengths turned from building up to killing off immigrants and making this our nation, killing many black people because we believed that they didn't deserve the same rights that we did, and we focused more on gaining power than gaining unity and becoming one nation. So that's kind of how it affected our American identity in a strength aspect. Now, talking about prosperity of the country before the post-Civil War era, we thrived in buying and selling land. Now, this is what people thought was a good idea and would help them get farther in life, and it did, because land never depreciates in value; it always appreciates and it always gains in value. But you see this shift during the westward expansion of the power not going from buying to selling land to all these new innovations that help farming and help industry. Factories start popping up. All these innovations such as barbed wire to keep all the cattle and cows in areas, which ex-nayed cowboys, and that was the end of the cowboy era. You see all of these innovations starting to take over certain roles that we would have otherwise needed somebody to do. And so that is, that during the westward expansion, you see more innovations pop up and more inventions, and this starts to shift our value of buying and selling land to valuing, well, do I have the best tools that I need? And we see that affect our American identity a lot, especially what we're going to be going over in the next unit during the Industrial Revolution. So that's going to be something that I'm going to probably talk about in my next video. And third is going to be our freedom. The government owns absolutely every aspect of the American dream, if you think about it. Now, they made it seem like they were such good people by giving the opportunity of having 160 acres of land. Oh my God, we're going to get it for free, and all we have to do is farm, dig a well, and make a road. That's not that hard. But really, if you think about it, the government's only doing it for themselves. They're the ones at the benefit. You're farming their land. Now it might be yours, but they own the nation. They can come in once you've built up your land and built up a nice little economy, nice little town. They can come in and say, hey, you're on our turf, pay me taxes. We're going to get somebody in here to govern this area. We're going to get a government. You see states start popping up, and that is why states started popping up, because the government sends elected officials to govern certain areas, and that's where you really see the government still having control over this area. Now, they made it seem like, okay, we're going to give you this land and you're going to live however you want for the rest of your life. This is your land. But that's not true, because once you started, once you started building up and once you became successful at farming, and you might have a town, you might have a state, that's when the government comes in and really controls the area. And that's kind of how the westward expansion affected our American identity, because not only did we grow as a nation, but the government got stronger just because of all the different economies popping up across the western side of the nation. So we talked about the economies, the economic changes, all these different places popping up and the government being able to come in and, tax and take control. Political challenges. We did not, we talking as, a Caucasian American, white people did not believe that blacks should have the right to vote. Now, I take that back, some did, but many did not. Organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan, developed to scare and plot against these African Americans who wanted to vote. And there were many political challenges in the eyes of equality. Now, who gets to vote, who doesn't get to vote, that was challenging. But as the, era ended, more and more people began to vote. There were literacy tests given to blacks who, they were very hard and they were set to fail, like they were meant to not be passable. And there were riots, there were race riots, horrible race riots. And also social challenges of the westward expansion and post-Civil War era. A lot of the westward expansion was extremely challenging socially because just of how isolated you were. There weren't many laws that were enforced. There was no law enforcement. There weren't any set rules. That was technically your land. You could do whatever you want with it. Many people got killed on the western frontier just because, hey, somebody else wanted it. They're going to take it, Cowboys. You see all these things in movies nowadays about how rough and tough cowboys had to be just because there weren't enforced laws back then. Now, the government comes in, once a small economy has, begun to build, once towns started sprouting up, and that's when you start to see your law enforcement come in. But that didn't happen right away. That was just all, clear land that people needed to be settled on. So there were many social challenges, such as getting your crops from point A to point B, and that is where the railroad system come in. The government, really pushed for a railroad system running from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they got it. We had Irish and Chinese workers working from one end and working from another end and completing the railroad at Pulmonary Point. And that was a big deal because it made social challenges a lot less challenging, because you had a way of transporting all of your goods to these densely populated areas where they were needed. So I hope I covered a lot of just the general, gist of how the post-Civil War era kind of affected our American identity, changing it from, freedom, prosperity to bigger. We want more, They can't vote. We control it. The government is really pushing towards more control, but at the same time making it seem like we have all the freedom in the world, when really that's not the case. And, you can see this in so many different parts of history, and it does repeat itself many times. But I hope I went over a lot of good points, and I hope that you guys learned something from this video. Thank you.